This PowerPoint goes over the academic language formula, and it's adapted from the work of Dr. Pam Owen. And the text from this PowerPoint is available on the academic language formula Word document if you're looking to review this information. So what is academic language? Academic language represents the language demands of school, academics. This is the language that's used in textbooks, in classrooms, on tests, in each discipline. It is discipline specific often, and terms that you're not going to hear kids using on the playground. It's different from the everyday spoken English in terms of vocabulary and the structure. So kids are not going to be talking about onomatopoeia on the playground, but if it's a term that you're going to use in a lesson plan, you have to think about whether or not it's something you need to teach and how you're going to teach that language. So there's two areas you need to think about when you're thinking about academic language. Is this something that they need to know? Is this their prior knowledge, something that they need to know to be successful with this lesson? And this includes grammar, vocabulary, punctuation, literary structure, etc. Or is this something they're going to learn throughout this lesson? Are you specifically teaching this to your students in this lesson? And again, list any of those things here. Now, first you're going to choose from the list on the left side of the page. Reading, writing, speaking. If it's reading, writing, or speaking, add one from the center list. Is it instrumental, regulatory, interactional, personal, heuristic, imaginative, representational? Or if it's listening, you'll want to add something from this list. Are they listening to something? Is it an aesthetic experience? Is it an efferent experience where they're listening to learn, noticing sequence, comparing, contrasting, summarizing? Are they critically listening to make judgments, detect bias, etc.? And then you're going to identify the language demand as receptive or productive. If they're listening and you're not asking them to produce anything, it's receptive. If they're producing something, if they're speaking, if they're writing, if that is going to be productive. Some examples. A receptive demand would be learning to follow instructions. Student will need to understand the instructional language. A receptive demand, reading for regulation, understanding the written instructions. The students will need to understand the instructional language written there. A productive demand, writing for representation and explaining the topic, or a productive demand, writing for personalization and expressing their opinion about the meaning of the text. Everything that the students have to do to engage in communication related to this activity falls in here. Listening to directions, reading a piece of text, answering a question out loud, preparing a summary, responding to written questions. All of those things have to do with the academic language, and you need to think through all of those in your lesson plans. So here's where it goes in the lesson plan. First, the academic language. What are the terms they're going to need to know? You're going to need to define them and identify the source for each. And they have to be in kid-friendly language. It doesn't do you any good to use dictionary.com if you're working with preschoolers when the language level is way too high. Here's where you also put, what do they need to already know? What's the prior knowledge of academic language that they're going to need to know for this lesson? Do they already know the term Venn diagram, or do you need to introduce the term Venn diagram? What terms are they going to learn in this lesson? And then again, identify the source and provide a definition. For the language demand, how are your students going to use language in this lesson? And how are you going to incorporate the terms within your lesson?